Conshizzy podcast. This is a special edition about inspiring confidence in climate justice. And my next guest is an interesting personality. She's a center of interest for the GLF and Amazonia Peruana chapter, the one and only Clemencia Pinasco. I love your name.
Thank you very much.
It's a story. What's the story behind your name? Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me here. It's an honor. And, well, my name means clemency or mercy.
Okay.
My mom is also called Clemencia. And yeah, I'm very proud of my name. It's unique. Even in Peru, not many people have this name. I don't know any other Clemencias until now. So.
All right. It's a unique name. It sounds good. So I was like interested to find out what it means. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Welcome to Nairobi.
Thank you so much.
Over 40 hours of travel.
Oh, yes.
Are you still jet lagged?
A little bit, yeah. Or just exhausted from the trip in general. But
all right.
It's worth it.
We were chatting on WhatsApp, and you're telling me you're in Amsterdam. You're now gonna catch your next flight, and I was like, that's a long journey to Nairobi, but for a cause.
Oh yes, an important cause.
An important cause. Yes. And let's talk about the cause.
Awesome.
This is day one of the conference. It's about finding sovereign solutions for African countries and the African continent. So what do you feel, coming from Peru and bringing your perspective into the African scene, what do you feel should be our roadmap to finding our solutions that are sovereign?
I found that we have so many things that we intersect that are so similar, even though our landscapes are different, our projects are different, our work is different. There are so many overarching principles that can be applied throughout the regions and in similar manners. I was just at a policy session earlier, working alongside mostly people from Kenya. I believe there was somebody from Ghana as well. And we were discussing about how policy can be best implemented in the region for driving solutions to fight biodiversity loss. And really, at the end of the day, what we are looking at are the same systematic problems that affect all regions. And I think it's interesting to use our creativity and work together and apply even skills from my experience in Peru in a completely different landscape, in a completely different region, can be applied and can be modified to work here in Africa.
Sounds great. Do you feel there's goodwill and willingness to do that with our leadership and, organizations based in Africa?
From what I'm seeing here today, most certainly there is a lot of passion, a lot of drive, a lot of knowledge being held in these kinds of spaces. And I guess the question is, how will that knowledge, how will that power, how will that passion translate from this space, which obviously in this space we have people that are aligned in their mindset, that are aligned in what they want to do, and how will that translate on the ground to people that maybe aren't here, that maybe haven't had the opportunity to come here. But I believe, from what I'm listening to, from what I'm seeing, from the conversation that I'm having, that there is this force driving people that will move things forward and that will increase and change and fight for climate justice and fight for everything this conference stands for. All
right, amazing. What's your expectation after the 2-day conference is over? What do you expect to achieve, you personally, and maybe for the motherland, for the motherland of Africa and for Earth in general? What's the expectation?
I think we can expect solutions to come up. We can expect new alliances to be created. I think this forum itself just creates space for so many different organizations to meet each other. Just until now, I've met so many people that I have synergies with, that our projects can work with each other to grow, to learn, to bounce ideas off each other and just unite forces and create better solutions that work for everybody.
All right.
With everybody.
Amazing. I think that's well put. Let's talk about Camino Verde.
Yeah.
Interesting initiative you guys are having and projects. So let's talk about more about that. Can you shed more light about the Camino Verde?
Of course. So Camino Verde is a local NGO in Peru working in 2 regions of the Amazon, in the southern Amazonian region of Madre de Dios and in the northern Amazonian region of Loreto.
Okay.
The mission is to restore landscapes of the Amazon while improving the livelihoods of forest communities. And we identify forest communities as being the frontline actors in deforestation. And for us, that means that frontline communities, farming, native communities, are those that have the most power to prevent deforestation, but also to enact deforestation. And unfortunately, we live in an economic system that is based on extractive economies. In the region where I live, Madre de Dios, the southern Peruvian Amazon, we have a thriving informal economy on gold mining, When I say informal, it means that it's not fully legal. Not everybody has papers, not everybody has the authorization to mine, but it's the biggest economic activity of the region. And because it is informal, there's not enough policy, there's not enough backing in the government, there's not enough financing in the government to support it. And this just drives deforestation. The most accessible economic activities are extractive. You need to cut down forests to farm. You need to cut down forests to get gold. You need to cut down trees to get timber.
Even just livelihood for locals.
And it is the livelihood.
Yes.
It's the most accessible livelihood. So of course it makes sense that people participate in it because it's the most accessible and it's what people know as well. So what we are proposing is changing that and providing an alternative livelihood, diversifying income through regenerative economies. And the way we do so is through native species-based agroforestry systems. So alongside farmers, native communities, and frontline communities in general, we are planting and reforesting with native species agroforestry systems that are forest imitating, that provide livelihoods. We focus on specific, what we call non-timber forest products, and these are products that come from the forest from native species that provide a livelihood. This can be cacao, this can be aromatic species that produce essential oils, and there's so much to do. We also have a segment of biodiversity protection. We have a bank of over 600 native species planted.
Okay.
And that is another facet of our work. We work in transparent supply chains. It's a very holistic approach to solving the issue of deforestation, which is the single biggest issue in the Amazon at the moment.
Okay.
And we're trying to attack one of the causes of it.
All right. And how's that going? How's the goodwill? What's the progress on a scale of 1 to 10? Are you guys making strides?
We're making amazing strides at the moment. We are currently working with over 130 farmers and native communities and smallholder agricultural associations.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah. Reforesting over 60 hectares of land in the Amazon.
Okay.
We're also protecting over 100 hectares of primary forest. So we are doing tangible work that is providing livelihood, that is providing solutions. And I'm very proud to say that we are doing good strides.
I mean, and we commend you for that. Let's talk about a project you guys did, the Greenway. You planted over 200,000 trees. How did that happen? That's crazy.
So we planted over 200,000 trees in partnership with a restoration initiative that was also interested in regenerative economies and agroforestry systems. They were focused on a plant called copazu, which is related to cacao. And with them, I believe it's something over 80 hectares that were reforested.
Wow. Okay.
And that is the kind of mass scale restoration initiatives that we're really interested in pursuing and growing. And it's a landmark project for us.
Amazing. And I mean, that brings me to another question about the Peruvian Amazon. I mean, it's a habitat for so many, animals that are at risk even of getting extinct. So what do you feel is the impression, or maybe how do the Peruvians take it when you tell them we need to preserve our forest, and they tell you this is our livelihood? I mean, where do you want us to? I mean, get food, get money for I don't know, buying stuff. What's the conflict with that?
But that's where.
How do you mitigate that?
That's where that's exactly actually what we don't do. We don't tell them they need to preserve the forest. We show them
the importance.
We try to show them the importance of it, but we also provide a livelihood.
Okay.
With the agroforestry systems that we are reforesting alongside farmers.
Okay.
They are able to get income out of.
And now that's an alternative instead of
exactly. So that's an alternative.
Okay.
Part of our project does include a voluntary area of conservation of secondary forests given by the communities and the families that are participating in our programs. So let's say they reforest half a hectare of land with a productive agroforestry system, and they voluntarily will give another half a hectare of land to protect. And that's half a hectare that won't be turned into a farm. It'll just be kept in active conservation to ensure that we are kind of adding a component of conservation. However, I do want to say that projects that just tell local frontline communities, hey, you need to do conservation, you need to protect that piece of land.
Okay.
Those projects typically will fail.
Yeah, they will.
Because there's no incentive and there's no true understanding of the needs of the communities. Conservation needs to come hand in hand with sustainable development of the communities that require and live from the forest. It's unrealistic to think that we can conserve without first
finding an alternative.
Exactly.
All right, that's sustainable. What you guys are doing is amazing. You're impacting locally. You're acting locally and impacting globally. What do you think is the impact of what you guys are doing in Peru to Africa and to the rest of the world?
I think our work can be replicated in different areas, maybe with different species, definitely with different species, definitely with understanding the local contexts. We have identified one kind of key product that we are able to produce from our agroforestry systems, which is an essential oil, which is very high value niche product that has a very high paying market, and we've been able to tap into that market.
Okay.
And the path to finding this took several years, and it wasn't a really linear path either, but it's, if you're able to identify a product that you're able to sustainably grow and that allows you to pair it with capacity building in communities, with conservation of land, and most importantly with providing alternative livelihoods, take advantage of that item.
Yeah, take advantage of it.
Take advantage of that product. And then maybe after the break I can show you some of the...
That would be amazing.
Some of our products, because I actually have some with me.
All right, that's amazing. That sounds dope. Let's talk about the government commitment to all these initiatives and projects you're doing in Peru and in Africa and around the world. Do you feel the government of today is 100% committed to these noble initiatives and causes that we're doing, even the conference today? Back home in Africa, around the world?
I feel like I can maybe talk more about back home than Africa. I've been learning about the role that the government in Africa and in Kenya and in different places plays in conservation initiatives and in protection. But unfortunately, I am not from here and I don't know all the complex.
But you can inspire confidence from what you guys are doing in Peru.
But in Peru,
Nairobi,
I mean, the government is very complex. As I was saying, the region where I live in, Madre de Dios, has a thriving informal economy, which means that the funding isn't coming from the government. The government actually doesn't have too much money. Although it's informal, so there's no taxes.
Okay.
There's no... It's just an economy that is based on illegal activity.
All right, yeah, okay.
And the other region where we work at, it's the same story. It's close to the border with Colombia, close to the border with Brazil, and you can already imagine what goes on in that border. And so we are dealing in very conflicting regions where the government has other priorities, where it's also very isolated, it's very remote. Moving in the Amazon, you can only move by boat to many places. To where I work, it's impossible to get to without a boat. And just imagine having to work through these limitations of access and a lacking government, a lacking structure of the government that doesn't necessarily, that isn't able to work through this really at this moment. However, we, on one side, we try to bypass in a certain way what the government is doing, but also when we're given the chance to participate in policy creation spaces or in governmental spaces, we always take advantage of those spaces. And I believe it's in these kinds of spaces where we can transmit the need and the requirements and the priorities that we see in the communities that we work with. And most importantly, break down the barriers of representation, because honestly, it should not only be us in these spaces, it should be those communities that we work with. And unfortunately, there's systematic barriers of accessibility to policy creation spaces from frontline communities.
Yes.
But we can break those down, and we can work with the government to create accessibility to the kind of spaces where their voices are the most important.
All right, amazing, interesting. I mean, I'm listening to you talking about it, and I'm thinking, this is a long overdue conversation. We should have had it some way back.
Oh, yes.
But it's not too late to inspire confidence in climate justice and maybe evoke change. Let's talk about political instability, because it's all connected with climate activities and change. What do you feel, coming from Peru? Of course, you have your unique issues about political instability, Africa too. But what do you think? Because I had a guest on the podcast, and she said sometimes people just want to feed themselves, and they end up participating in wars and conflicts because they need food, but they can't find food. How can we make sure that we don't climate issues are not associated and linked to political instability. How can we achieve that? Is it achievable?
I think it's achievable, and I think it takes a lot of grassroots movements and local initiatives and people that are willing to work past what the government imposes and past what the limitations that the government proposes. Peru is currently a very politically unstable country. Maybe I would like to highlight something that happened earlier this year in the region where I work. The region where I work is very remote. There's one road in, one road out, and
one road in, one road out.
Yes, and you can also go by plane. And in January, we had 40 days where there were protests throughout the country, but they were particularly bad.
There were barricades. I saw that. But
the region where I was barricaded for 40 days straight. Nothing was coming in and out of the region for 40 days.
No food, no water.
Well, we have water.
Okay.
But you know what wasn't coming in? The chemicals to clean the water.
Crazy.
So we were about to run out of clean water. We didn't have medicine. We didn't have, and our region is one that relies heavily on the rest of the country. We have very little production. We have very little technified farming that provides all the diversity of veggies and fruits that we need to survive. And it was a dire situation. People were really struggling. The prices increased. A gallon of gasoline
gas prices
went up to $30.
That's crazy.
For 1 gallon. The gas tanks, I'm not sure if you use those here, like propane for cooking.
Yeah.
$100 for a gas tank in your house.
That's crazy.
And how is that sustainable?
Here in Nairobi, it's around it's like $15.
The typical price is maybe $20.
20, yeah.
It went up to 100.
Crazy.
And that's just unsustainable. But, we were able to go past that, and that just showed a lot of resilience as well. Many people went to their farms and started living in their farms, even though they typically live in the city. And that's just the resilience of farmers, that they have this natural, beautiful option to be able to go back to their farms, live and work in their farms while situations are unstable. And it's that kind of resilience that we need to continue to foster and continue to highlight the importance of farmers and farming communities in around the world, really.
I mean, well put. And I mean, thinking about that, and I'm thinking about also the GLF conference, and it's about day 2 is about finding solutions for the climate crisis, because we need to save the earth. I saw in a report they said if we don't save the earth, even human beings are in jeopardy of becoming extinct, and that's crazy. So what do you feel, in your expert opinion, working in Peru and across the world, should be the bottom line thing that we do, not in Africa alone, but around the world, to solve the crisis about climate?
I think at the root, we just really need to listen to each other and
have conversations
and make sure that we're listening to everybody.
Okay.
Not be very intentional in how we are inviting people to spaces and who we're inviting, and make sure that everybody is represented. And make sure, and most importantly, there needs to be bridges built. And we need to have people that are able to build those bridges between different ways of knowing and different ways of understanding, because obviously a farmer is going to think different than a biologist, is going to think different than an indigenous person, is going to think different than an economist, and we need to be able to build those bridges and listen to everybody. We need to have patience, we need to be creative, we need to propose solutions and build a planet that doesn't rely on extractive economies, that values sustainability, that values regeneration. And I think it's possible, but it requires a lot of work and maybe a lot of sacrifices as well.
Exactly. And like you said, having conversation and listening to each other, because I feel listening has become a lost art. People don't want to listen. Everyone has an opinion. They want to talk. Everyone is the smartest in the room. But if we listen to each other more, I think we can achieve more and find maybe solid solutions.
Definitely.
I know Peru has a very rich culinary tradition. So can we dive into that and talk about that tradition? So this is linked to food security. So what's the standout about your rich culinary tradition in Peru?
I mean, I could talk hours about the food in Peru, but let's try to keep it brief.
Exactly.
Peru has a lot of influence from a lot of the immigration that has happened. We've had a lot of Chinese immigration, Japanese immigration.
So many nationalities living there.
Even Italian,
Africans.
European, African. There's so much influence in our cuisine, and it's just a beautiful mix of different countries and different locations. And even if you're looking within the country, Andean food is going to be very different than the food from the coast, and it's going to be very different than the food from the jungle.
There's a huge difference. Yeah.
There's huge differences in all the regions. We do rely, throughout the regions, we rely a lot on chicken, fish, meat. They're very big staples in our diets, but they're cooked in different ways.
Okay.
In the jungle, we also use a lot of cassava, which we call yuca, prepared in different ways. There's different types of cassava as well. The more bitter cassava and the more sweeter cassava that can be prepared differently. Rice is a common staple. Rice is breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Okay.
And we white rice with garlic. That's the way we prepare it.
It has to have garlic.
Yeah, so we prepare it we toast it with garlic a little bit before cooking, and then we cook it, and Peruvians are very proud of their rice.
And it's delicious.
It's delicious, yeah.
All right,
It's very
I should try
simple,
that.
but delicious.
You should invite me to Peru.
Oh yeah, whenever you want, please.
All right, I'll be coming.
Yeah.
You were born and raised in Lima.
Yes.
And this passion about the environment, about working with communities, is this something that you grew up with, or is this something that you acquired along the way?
I was always curious
about the environment.
I actually started as a biologist, and maybe that's an important thing to mention.
By profession, yeah. That's what you studied.
And I remember when I was a kid, there was a wall in the garden in my house that was full of snails all along the wall. And I would come back from school and I would see the snails. And then one day I was like, I wonder if they're always here. And I grabbed nail polish and I put dots on some of the snails.
How old are you at that point?
8.
8, okay.
Maybe. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe actually a little younger.
Okay.
And I would see if they would live there, and I would see, how many would move and where they would move. And sometimes I would find a painted snail on the other side of the house. And I was just always very curious about wildlife, about the animals. And then that's what led me to study biology. And then that's what led me to start studying spider monkeys in a very remote research station in the Peruvian Amazon, where my focus was wildlife conservation. But then I started to feel quite limited in my outlook of wildlife conservation. I felt that my impact was not what I wanted it to be.
You wanted to do more.
I wanted to do more, and I also felt that I was falling into. So I was the only Peruvian biologist in this research site, surrounded by foreign biologists, many of whom didn't speak the language. So they really struggled to communicate what they were doing and what they needed. And I was just the translator, but I wasn't, at the end of the day, I realized I wasn't only translating language. So I wasn't only translating, this is what this person was saying, to the person that was going to drive the boat, or the cook, or the person in maintenance that needed to fix something. I ended up translating the concepts of science to people that weren't scientists.
Okay. Breaking it down to the ground level.
Yeah, and obviously when we have a conversation among scientists, it's going to sound very different than when we have a science conversation with non-scientists.
Exactly.
And it's very important to know how to change your vocabulary, change the ways that you're explaining when you're within different contexts.
Depending the audience,
Exactly.
your audience, yeah. Okay.
And that is, I just saw that was missing from our projects. We weren't working, we weren't teaching, we weren't bridging the gaps of communication and of knowledge with the local community that was most near to us. And we missed such a big chance with that community that was a recently settled farming community that had planted cacao, and many of them were interested in conservation, but they had a need to sustain their families, and they unfortunately couldn't conserve what they wanted to conserve. And I realized I started changing my path. I had some difficult conversations with some of my peers where disagreements arose, and they didn't agree with my perspectives on conservation and things. And I just really started to change my path, and that's how I ended up in Camino Verde, where people are the focus, where communities are the focus. And
focus on the community.
And my science background provides such a beautiful history and such a beautiful context to my work, and it guides my work still, but it isn't, I don't do research anymore, and I'm okay with that.
All right, okay. Yeah. All right, amazing. And you're doing a great job. I want to find out how your work has impacted to people around you, your family, let's say your siblings, and people around you, your friends. How has that impacted?
A lot. I'm the only biologist in my family. I'm the only one that works in such a remote region, and everybody was always very receptive, even when I was just 14, going to be a research assistant in another region of the forest and
Okay.
researching manta rays or researching dolphins. I was always encouraged and motivated, and I mean, I was kind of seen as a weird one, a little bit in my family, but I think I've connected them with a whole new world that they didn't know, being from Lima, and yeah, it's been really
And that's
nice.
amazing.
Yeah.
And you're inspiring confidence on this podcast and in the GLF conference.
So.
You will, absolutely. This is the Confident One Conshizzy podcast. We take a short break. We'll be back with Clemencia. So I'm interested to find out about the price tag of the products. How affordable are they? Like the soap, for example?
We currently tap into a local market with not much acquisitive power in the region that we work with in Peru. So the soaps and the chocolates are covering the costs of our production, plus a little bit more to be able to provide the sustainability that I was speaking about earlier within our project.
Okay.
I believe the soap costs somewhere around $5 and the chocolate bar may cost somewhere around $3. Mm-hmm. The more expensive products are the essential oils.
The oil here, okay.
The essential oils require more costs in the production of them. You need to distill. You have a large distilling drum. You have fire for the evaporation to occur.
It's a long process even to get the end product.
And of course, you need a lot of material to produce a small amount of oil. And it depends on the plant. Some plants have more oil. Some plants have less oil.
Okay.
It can even depend on when you harvest them and the time of year or the time of day or if it had rained before or not. And there's just so many variables that make it a very complex product to produce.
Okay.
And essential oils around the world are very valuable. Off the top of my head, I don't know the cost for each of these, but they're probably around, each little bottle, which is 10 milliliters, is probably around $10, $15.
Okay, that's affordable. That's not bad.
But again, if I'm talking about a foreign market, an international market outside Peru, it would probably be more expensive because of the associated exportation costs and permits that we need to go through.
Oh yeah,
to
exactly.
be able to export the products.
Distribution and all that.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Amazing. But I can't wait to try out your products. I hope you're gonna give us some to.
Of course. I'll leave you with,
so that we
with
can
a few.
We can be ambassadors for you guys.
I'll leave you a few to try. I do unfortunately need to keep some for the rest of the conference tomorrow.
Totally. I agree. All right, that sounds dope. What are you most proud of? I mean, you've achieved some greatness. What's the one thing you're most proud of? Or maybe two or three.
Oh, that's so hard.
Yeah.
I just really love seeing, for example, the products. I love seeing the products. There's something so beautiful about seeing the cacao and the trees in the farms, and then harvesting that cacao and then
seeing the end product.
And then seeing the end product.
Okay.
And then and being involved in that work is just so valuable, and it's so beautiful to really see this process, see this transformation, and be a part of something that is greater than you and that is bigger than you, and that I just know I'm helping facilitate, I'm moving things forward. But it's not about me. It's not about. It's
bigger
about
than you.
It's about
it's
everything
the community
that we are
achieving,
working around.
All right.
To
I mean, that's
achieve.
a good answer. I'm very confident. But do you feel from what you've done, all the projects you've done with, let's say, the Peruana Amazon and Amazonia chapter, but do you feel like you have some personal things that you're proud of, apart from from the organization and the projects that you've done? What are they?
I don't know. It's. I find these questions really tough to answer. I'm very much somebody that is very focused on what I'm doing, what I'm passionate about, and I sometimes don't stop and think about what I've actually achieved. I guess I'm
that's
proud.
A good thing.
I guess I'm proud of myself that I'm
been able
here
to
now, and my journey. I just find that my journey has been very interesting. I started working in a very remote research station in the jungle, very passionate about research, and then realizing that my impact wasn't enough, I decided to radically change my path. And even when I was confronted with different opinions and people that were disagreeing with me, I kept true to my beliefs and kept true to myself, and was able to change my path and follow what I believed in, even if everybody around me was like, hey, I don't like your thoughts, or I don't like the way that you're thinking. I think it maybe just pushed me more to have my values
amazing
set and move forward with that.
And I mean, that's well put. that inspires so much confidence to just do what you do. And if you're passionate about it, at the end of the day, you make impact. You don't even notice you make impact. But if you're passionate about it and you're dedicated, you make impact at the end of the day. That's amazing. And I want to find out your biggest fear about us not achieving what we're doing today here about climate and food security. What's your biggest fear about us not achieving that? It's achievable, but what's your biggest fear about?
It's achievable.
Yeah, it's achievable.
My biggest fears is that we might pass that breaking point.
Okay.
In the Amazon, the breaking point can mean many things. In
Yes.
Africa, it can mean many things as well. Disadvantaged communities are the most at risk. Frontline communities in remote areas are the most at risk. And I just fear that if we aren't able to work fast enough, if we aren't able to work
If you
together,
don't act now.
if we don't act now, that we will pass that breaking point and things will radically change. And then we just need to adapt to those changes and maybe try to prevent things from getting worse.
Okay.
But I am hopeful, and I know that we have the capacity, the knowledge, and the power to change that trajectory and be able to.
I agree 100%.
to not reach that point.
All right, I agree. And at the end of the day, if we have unity of purpose about what you're doing, I think we can achieve greatness.
Exactly.
But I spoke about it in a previous episode, and my guest said sometimes you come to these conferences and big platforms, but some people don't even know why they're here.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're here for the vibes, the food, I don't know, checking out the city, but they leave without even, I don't know, gaining knowledge from it. So her perspective was, if we simplify this information we're trying to put out and take it to the masses in a very simple way, because someone won't be able to sit in a conference for 2 hours and consume all that. What do you think should be done more, just apart from just conferences and workshops and clinics, to raise more awareness and effect change?
I totally agree with the sentiment that the previous person here was saying, and as you're mentioning, these spaces can be very amazing and can be sources of such creativity.
Exactly.
But they can also be very limiting, and
Yes.
they can be, in a way, exclusionary. And I think it's okay to accept that. And it's okay. There's people that should be here that aren't here, and then it's maybe people that are here that are here and they can add value, but maybe there's somebody that could be here instead of them.
Exactly.
And and I think we need to continue breaking past these barriers and reaching audiences in different ways. And sure, we can communicate things in a simple way, but even if you're communicating things in a simple way, it needs to be adapted for each person in each context that in each audience that you're trying to approach.
Exactly.
It's
I
going to be
agree.
different if you're trying to summarize things for kids versus if you're trying to summarize things for economists or for indigenous peoples. And we just need to be flexible, and we need to have actors that are able to create these translations, to create these different communication strategies for different groups. And we need to continuously work on improving these to create access to everybody and have everybody be represented in these spaces.
Amazing. That sounds dope. And I feel like you said, at the end of the day, like some people might be here, but I mean, other people could have been more effective if they were here. But the thing with that is, if you're in a space and you don't try to make yourself better or make your community better, or whoever you're representing in that space, I don't see how that's even, you don't even do yourself any justice at the end of the day. So I feel also even the people, maybe getting people in these spaces, should be very keen and intentional who they get in here. Because we might be doing conferences all the time, but we end up with the same problems. We're not making any significant change or progress. So I think also that maybe they should look into that maybe. I don't know. But yeah, maybe they're watching and listening.
I completely agree.
I
I
agree
completely
too.
agree that we
Co-sign
need to
too.
be very intentional in who and how we invite people and who
Exactly,
and
yeah.
how we create access.
Yeah.
And I mean, for example, I was brought in all the way from Peru, and
And you had to do 40 hours.
I had to do 40 hours, but I brought representation that wasn't here. I brought representation of the Amazon. I brought representation of Latin America that is important.
And a huge responsibility.
It
yeah.
is a huge responsibility, and it's interesting, even though this conference is focused on African solutions, especially the first day. The second day is a little bit more global. But it's important to have voices from different parts of the world that are able to communicate their perspectives, their priorities, and that's the way we learn. And I'm learning so much about Africa, and I'm hoping that I'm being able to teach and communicating about Latin America to people that may not know really how the Amazon is. And that's my goal for being here today, to show and explore.
And you're going to achieve that at the end of the
I hope I am achieving that, yeah.
You are.
Yeah,
with the podcast right now, and we're inspiring confidence in climate justice and making change. I think you're doing that so well. Let's focus on Clemencia, the person.
Okay.
What do you like doing for fun? What's your getaway? What's your escape?
I love nature.
Nature.
I lived for almost 4 years in a very remote research station in the jungle. No Wi-Fi, no service. We had a radio, and then we had a little sat phone that we could send text messages in. And looking back, I was so much happier. I was so much more comfortable in that kind of environment. I tried out the city for a year, and I'm going to be moving back to nature by the end of this year. And I just love being in nature. I love exploring. I used to do a lot of hiking in the mountains of Peru.
Climbing mountains, that should be fun.
Peru has beautiful
the valleys are amazing there.
The valleys, the Andes. I just love exploring. Unfortunately, my work in the jungle, I've kind of thrown myself completely to it, and I haven't had much time to explore the Andes in a while, but it's something that I will hope to be doing soon. And while I'm here, I'm definitely going to be exploring a little bit of the country as well, and I need to take advantage of at least a little week to get to know Kenya and travel.
How long are you going to be in Nairobi?
In Nairobi, I'll probably be only until the 14th. And
14th, okay.
I'm hoping to do maybe a safari.
Maybe I plan to go down to the beach in Mombasa.
I think so. I still don't have a plan fully defined. I learned about this trip very recently, and I am still planning what I'm going to do once the conference is done. But I know something is going to pop up.
Yeah, you should check out maybe the coastal. I can give you some.
Please. After this, you can give me recommendations.
Of course, I'll be happy to do that.
Yeah.
All right, amazing. This is amazing, Clemencia, and I feel also I want to ask you a question about how has your work changed the person and the things you care about, the person you are and things you care about. Has your work changed the person you are and the things you care about?
So much.
In which way?
I mean, I live in Madre de Dios, which is a very, as I said, it's a very remote region of Peru. It's very much behind the rest of the country in development, and the struggles that I see there, and the way that we live there is so different from the way I grew up in Lima. And every time I go to Lima, it's this drastic change in attitude, in behavior, in things that I'm seeing. And I mean, I feel myself change when I visit Lima and when I visit my family, and then when I go back home, it's like in Lima I sometimes feel that I'm pretending or I need to act a certain way, whereas when I'm in the jungle, I'm myself, I'm comfortable. It's more easygoing. It's not the hectic city of Lima, and I just have learned so much about my country, and I'm much more aware than what I was before. And it's like sometimes I go to Lima, and the problems that my friends tell me or the problems that I see around the community that surrounds me in Lima are so different than the ones that are really affecting the country.
And how's success changed your circle?
Sorry?
Has success changed your circle, the people you used to hang out with?
Yeah, definitely. My main community, my main chosen family, if I would choose that, is they're all located in the jungle. They're the people that I see myself most with, that I try to follow, that I look up to them, they look up to me. We collaborate, we grow, and I mean, many of my really close friends, we grew together professionally in this research station where we had no phone service, no anything. And just the connections that you build with people when there's no phones to distract you are so much more profound and beautiful, really. And that's
So success hasn't changed the people you used to hang out with, and still the same people.
Well, my friends in Lima from growing up, many I actually don't. I'm not too much in contact with them. I think I've changed mostly in terms of geography, and that just caused me to be more close to my friends in the jungle, and those are the people that I surround myself with more.
All right. I mean that's dope. Since sometimes success changes people's circle, and totally, I don't know, forget the people you grew up with and you maybe went through a lot with. But that's amazing. That's a confident answer. So I want to do what I call words of wisdom, but now we call it words of confidence. So I know there are millions watching globally, in Nairobi, in Ghana, in Peru, in New York, everywhere. And they want to hear your words of confidence. What do you have to tell them?
It's a tricky one.
You go straight into their eardrums and, and just inspire some confidence in them.
I would say in whatever you do and whatever you're passionate about, continue engaging with people, talk, learn, listen, and you're going to find a path that is right for you. And it might take you a while, you might fail, you might win, and it's a process of never-ending learning and adapting to problems and problem solving, and there's just so much to do, so much to see, so much to live, that don't miss opportunities, and listen and surround yourself with people that pull you up.
Okay, and elevate you, and make you more confident.
Yeah.
So how can we find you on the socials? Are you active?
Not too much,
okay,
if I'm being honest.
How can we get in touch with you, maybe, if we want to be part of the Peruano chapter?
We have our Camino Verde has social media.
Okay.
And I can leave that. Should I say it now?
Yeah, you can say it, yeah.
So if you look at Camino Verde Tambopata, that is our Instagram. Camino Verde Peru is our Facebook page. My email is cpinasco@caminoverde.org. And I can also give out my personal email, which is clemencia.pinasco@gmail.com.
All right.
My Spanish slip there.
It's fine.
Yeah.
All right. Make sure you get in touch with Clemencia. Yeah. And inspiration in this environment is never ending. And that's why there's need for more work and more inspiration. And thank you for the work you're doing. You're inspiring so much confidence from Peru to Nairobi to New York to Ghana. And we're hoping to see more of your work, and we'll be following that. So thank you for your time. Keep inspiring confidence and breaking the glass ceiling. We'll be watching you. And invite me to Peru, Lima.
Whenever.
I'll be so happy to come.
Let me know whenever you're coming. And thank you, everybody. I hope this was an interesting podcast for everybody. And happy to receive any messages and engage with anybody who's interested in our work or me.
Make sure you comment on the comment section and let us know what you think about what she's doing and what we're doing for the greater world. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
This is the Confident and Conshizzy podcast, Clemencia Pinasco, from Lima to Nairobi.